My first exposure to Japan was when I discovered the anime Naruto when I was 12. After discovering the OG Ninja Warrior, I began getting interested in everything Japan had to offer, but it wasn't until I discovered Japanese pro wrestling that I became infatuated with it. Back then I wanted to experience Japan, but it wasn't until my first trip to the New Japan LA Dojo in 2018 that I needed to experience Japan. The food, the culture, and especially the strong style wrestling. In an effort to impress the legendary Katsuyori Shibata, I put on 30 pounds in 6 months and began doing the insane Japanese workouts that the dojos were known for. I wasn't going to let anything, except not being good enough at wrestling, stop me from my one and only goal, Japan. And now here we are, 5 years, hundreds of thousands of squats, tens of thousands of push-ups, one global pandemic, and countless attempts at making it happen one way or another. Finally, after all this time, watashi wa Nihon ni ikimasu. They say the journey of 5,029 nautical miles begins with a single step. After a long day of napping, eating, and only packing the most essential things, well, most of the essentials anyway, I took that step toward the light rail station 2 miles from home. I will be doing a lot of walking and training in Japan, so I figured I'd get used to it now. I know this is a travelogue about a different country, but in spite of the many major issues America has that nobody seems to want to fix, there are few things on earth as gorgeous as Old Glory fluttering in a light breeze. After missing the previous train by literal seconds, I waited 30 minutes for the next one. I hopped on, and on the way to Union Station I decided it would be a good idea to throw on some Baby Metal, who are absolutely incredible live. After passing the Factory of Sadness, I transferred from my train to the airport train at Union Station. I then arrived at the airport to go through the theater act that is the TSA line. Luckily, I managed to breeze through this entire process in about 10 minutes. I arrived at my gate 2 hours before boarding, watched part of Game 7 of the NLCS while I waited for my flight to the City of Angels to board. The plane drive, as they are known to us aviation insiders, was spent naturally in seat 13A.
Good choice!
Mentally preparing myself for 3 countries and 2 days trip to Japan by studying Watashi no Nihongo no Noto, while watching the aforementioned NLCS Game 7 on the flight. While I do love a lot of things about the real-life Los Santos, we're only going to be there for a 2-hour layover, which isn't enough time to visit the hallowed grounds of Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles, thus defeating the whole point of being in LA in the first place. I never understood the appeal of walking on these moving sidewalks until I actually gave it a try about a year and a half ago, and it has quickly become one of my favorite aspects of the airport experience. After spending $10 on an overpriced cherry cola and a bougie Lunchable, I boarded my extra fancy China Airlines flight with complimentary earbuds, pillows, and blankets, none of which I actually used, to what will forever be known as the first country I have ever been to, as well as the real most valuable fans of the 2023 World Baseball Classic, Taiwan.
The bases remain loaded for Hero from last night, Yu Chang. 2-1. A swing and another drive to deep left center field. Yu Chang has done it again! It's on center field. It's set this place on fire. This crowd still going. It is a 5-1 lead for China.
On our way to Taiwan, allow me to take a break from OkCupid ni Nihongo wo renshu shimasu so we can talk about said Nihongo. If you want to learn Japanese, I highly recommend Human Japanese. With these two apps, you'll learn not just the language, but plenty about customs and culture of Japan. For our purposes, we'll focus on written Japanese. Japanese has 3 written alphabets, technically 4, but Romaji are literally your A's, B's, and Z's. Next up is hiragana. This is how common words such as konnichiwa and arigato are written. You'll notice it looks like calligraphy with a ton of curved, flowing lines, and that's because it is, or at least it was when people still used quill ink pens. On deck is katakana. It might look somewhat similar, but if you look closely, you'll notice a lot more straight lines and angles. This alphabet is used for all foreign loan words, stuff like America, pancakey, and penguin. It may sound like a lot, but these alphabets are actually not as difficult to learn as it may seem, until you get to the dreaded kanji. These are basically Chinese characters that were brought directly over and then modified. They are how many Japanese words are written, including concepts as well as names. In order to become proficient in Japanese, you must know about 2,000 of these. I know 6. Now let's kick back and enjoy all 13 of these hours in a brief montage set to some hopefully royalty-free music. After a 4-hour layover in Taiwan, where they absolutely adore Hello Kitty, we're off to Japan. Upon landing, the first thing you'll want to do is go mess around with the toilets, then go pick up your JR pass if you've got one. If not, then the other first thing you'll want to do is hit the ATM. You can hit the currency exchange, but pretty much any ATM will be more convenient and you'll most likely get better rates. After that, you want to make sure you pick up your Suica card. These are predominantly used for the local trains in every city in Japan, but they can also be used at vending machines and certain convenience stores. The Japanese resident version has a cool penguin on them, but mine doesn't, and that made me kinda sad. After a quick stop at 7-Eleven, it was time to finally catch the train to Tokyo. I hadn't even left the airport, and I was already over just how many things make noise at you.
승객 여러분께 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 열차 도착 시에는 매우 혼잡하오니 미리 내리실 준비를 해주시기 바랍니다. 대형 선반의 비밀번호를 잊으신 경우에는 열차
Originally, I was going to swing over to Kabukicho and walk around, but after 29 hours of travel and falling asleep in the bathtub for 30 minutes, I decided to check out some Japanese TV instead. It's mostly shows of people reacting to things, food shows, sports, and shopping channels. It's actually quite similar to American television. After a few minutes of that, I decided to go to bed, excited to begin my Japan trip in full the next day. Oyasumi nasai.